Welcome back to Son of Chelsea. Daniel Childs here. Hope you're doing really well on this Friday. It's team selector time for the FA Cup third round against Morecambe of League 2 at Stamford Bridge. It's a classic 3pm kickoff, which in the nature of the modern FA Cup, with no more replays and games starting on Thursday evening, as Sean Dyche would likely remark after being sacked by Everton, utter woke nonsense. It does feel a little bit traditional. And this game is obviously one Chelsea simply have to win. They have to get it over the line. And I think for Maresca and for the club generally, given it's been a difficult run of fixtures and difficult just results and form, we need to win this game. I do slightly think these games are always a little bit weird because Chelsea have usually been drawn against a team they're expected to beat. And it kind of is weird because even if Chelsea win convincingly tomorrow, the overall narrative and kind of tone of the season won't drastically change till we see the result of Tuesday's game against Bournemouth in the Premier League, which obviously matters more. However, as was proven in the Carabao Cup, I think that defeat to Newcastle, seeing the Carabao Cup semi-finals this week, that defeat to Newcastle was one that maybe went under the rug a little bit because of what's happened at Chelsea this season, but feels a little bit more costly. And taking the FA Cup seriously, and it's a chance to win silverware. It's a chance to maybe rid us of the terrible, atrocious Wembley record. But of course, this is only round 3. There's a long way to go, and we'll see how Maresca approaches this competition compared to the Carabao Cup and also the Conference League. So let's go through the team news. I think the big thing for Maresca in this game is that both Reece James and Lavia are both available and can get minutes. Fofana, Badiashile, and also Keane and Dewsbury Hall were all out. So, Dewsbury Hall, this would have been one of the rare games you thought he could have got minutes, but clearly not. It's also too early for Anselmino to play tomorrow. So at least Maresca's talking in a nature that Anselmino will be involved in the first team squad. But if he's not ready to play tomorrow, if Chelsea get through and then they get a similar type of game in the 4th round, I think that's maybe when Maresca would use him. But we'll see how he features as we head into the rest of January, but also the rest of this season. Morecambe, we obviously did play them once before in the FA Cup, and that was in 2021. It was also the 3rd round, and Chelsea convincingly won. That was the final few weeks of Frank Lampard's time as Chelsea head coach, when I believe Mount scored, Werner scored, Havertz scored, Hudson-Odoi scored. So a very different time in Chelsea history, even though it relatively wasn't that long ago. But watching the highlights as Chelsea have been re-releasing them, and obviously that was a COVID season, so it feels like a very long time ago when there were no fans inside the stadium. And just on Morecambe quickly, they are sat 23rd in League 2, so right near the bottom of league football in England. And there's going to be a demonstration, I think, of some kind tomorrow from Morecambe's travelling support against their ownership. So there's a lot of turmoil and frustration because they are in massive danger of going down to the non-league at the end of this year. So obviously a lot going on there. But for them and for their fans, it's a big day out. And I was speaking to Louis Benavente on our Chelsea Echo pod, and he's stressing magic of the FA Cup. You have to, right? Listen, we were there for that Bradford game years ago. I was there for that Bradford game and it was horrendous. And because nowadays we don't go to replays, we go to extra time and penalties. You never know what happens in the FA Cup. However, even with that, I don't think that Maresca should be approaching this by playing a first team. There's no point. Chelsea are, have been through a difficult run. And even with the need to get a win, we've got another game in the Premier League pretty soon after this. So I think that will demand rotation. And also I think the chance for young players to get sufficient minutes, and also to injured players, returning from injury, Reece James, Lavia, chance for them to get minutes, and also see the potential B options that I think Maresca should have looked at a lot more in recent weeks. So maybe this could be a game where those players potentially impress. In a game Chelsea are expected to win, but potentially get themselves in the eye of Maresca to feature in some Premier League games moving forward. So not a lot to say about Morecambe. I think that we expect that Chelsea will dominate the ball, have a lot of the ball. The last time Morecambe came to Stamford Bridge, they sat very deep, and it was the case of Chelsea just eventually waiting to break them down, and then goals start coming through. And I think that Maresca's approach will probably be similar to the way he looked at the Conference League games, the way we played against Shamrock, the way we played against Noah and Astana, games that, and Barrow, we played a League 2 team earlier this year in a cup competition at Stamford Bridge. rotation, yes, but there is more than enough quality for Chelsea to get through. And if Chelsea score within the first 5 minutes, I think it could become a pretty heavy scoreline. Even with, sure, the form hasn't been great, but Chelsea have enough quality here. So the team is one that I've actually seen, seeing some other predicted 11s. I was quite surprised that my predicted 11 is quite similar to others. So Jorgensen in goal, obvious chance for him to start a game. I would start Josh Achimpong in his more natural role right back here. I want to be starting Josh as much as possible. That centre-back area is kind of hard to know at the moment what Chelsea are going to do in the market. Do you recall Trevor Chalobah? We've been speaking about it this week. However, I think for Josh Achimpong, I would like to see him start again against Bournemouth. But, just for his own minutes and for his appearances, I'd like to see him start this game. However, if Josh is now considered a Premier League player, maybe there's an argument that Reece James starts here. I think there is a pretty strong argument that Reece James starts here. So I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. I think Reece James may start and then be taken off for Josh Achimpong. However, I'd like to see Josh get sufficient minutes. So even if it's 60 minutes, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, I think he should be playing a chunk of this game, absolutely. Dazassi and Tosin will obviously be the centre-backs. They are second choice. This is where they play their minutes. They have played the bulk of their minutes this season, have been in those lesser games. Renato Vega weirdly being linked away. If you sell Renato Vega, it just completely makes the treatment of Ben Chilwell seem even more bizarre. Because wasn't Vega supposed to come in as a backup? And I think actually could turn into something more in Chelsea as more than just a real C team player or B team player. I've actually liked what I've seen from Vega, so shouldn't be letting him go this month. And I think we'll start the game against Morecambe. In midfield, Romeo Lavia will start. Can he remain fit for more than a couple of weeks? That central midfield area is a real concern at the moment in terms of actual depth, with Cassidy likely leaving, Dewsbury Hall too. Lavia is obviously the third option, and I think from what we've seen when he's been on the pitch, there's been impressive performances. It's just that thing about his fitness. He seems like a very fragile player, and I think that's the big concern. Raksaki hopefully can start. I'd like to see Raksaki get a start here. He's played a couple of the Conference League games, got some minutes, and as a central midfielder, I think this could be a good demonstration for his skills and a chance for Maresca to look internally at a potential option he upgrades more in the second half of the season. If, of course, you're not recalling Andre Santos, which we suspect they aren't. And then looking at kind of the front bulk of players, I feel like these four players are the ones that naturally come to mind when we are thinking about a B game or a game where you are going to heavily rotate. Tyreek George, I'm desperate for him to score a goal. He's been desperate to score a goal. Maybe Morecambe will be the game where he scores. Christopher Nkunku, if Nkunku isn't starting this game, I know it's only Morecambe, but if he ain't starting the Morecambe game, I'd be really starting to think this is the end of his Chelsea career. Maybe you think I'm being dramatic there, but if he isn't starting this game, when is he starting a game for Chelsea? Because he didn't come off the bench against Palace. So the rumours about him leaving this month will only heighten if he doesn't start this game. So I think he absolutely will start this game. Joao Felix too, I think will start off the left. But, I think Nkunku, Felix, I think they'll be floating around and getting a lot of the ball if Chelsea likely dominate, as we expect they will. And then Mark Guiu, who I thought this month could have been one for him to get a loan, but we're not, again, another area that could be invested in this month by Chelsea, but maybe is a bit unlikely. He has obviously found quite a lot of form in recent months, especially when he started to play those Conference League games. He started to score goals for Chelsea, and I'm happy for him. And I think this is another great opportunity for him to show his talent. However, how does he grow from this? Does he become a serious competition for Nicholas Jackson? It was quite noteworthy that he came off the bench against Crystal Palace for Nicholas Jackson, but I feel like that plays more into the Nkunku story than the Mark Guiu. But for Guiu, again, important minutes, ones that he needs to take because he's not getting a lot at the moment when we do get back into Premier League football. Always difficult to predict these, but I think Chelsea will win convincingly, get off on the right foot in a competition, especially at this stage of the competition against lower league opposition. They usually do well against, and I hope that some of those fringe players really take their opportunities. Some of those younger players who can get minutes potentially off the bench as well also take their opportunities, and hopefully we can go into the game against Bournemouth, which I think is quite an important game at this point in the season in the Premier League, in good form and confidence. So those are my thoughts. Follow across the socials, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.